How are you guys doing? Today is Thursday, July 8th, 2021. For this episode of The Elite, I'm going to do an individual profile on Son Heung-min. The elite forward for Tottenham from South Korea turns 29 today. And with this episode, I'm going to go through his achievements, his accolades, and what he's been able to accomplish from the moment that he stepped foot in the prime time, like nationals at the international stage, to where he is right now as one of the world's best young forwards, one of the most influential players to ever come out of the continent of Asia. He is the highest scoring Asian-born player in the history of the Premier League, and he's continuing to build his legacy as one of the best players that the game has ever seen. He stands at about 6 feet tall. He's incredibly skilled with his feet. Of course, he has the dribble moves. He can shoot from virtually anywhere. And he's just a very consistent forward that you can see is getting better and better with the way he plays. So he would originally come out of South Korea and he would get recruited to play in Germany. And he would eventually get promoted to the senior circuit while playing at Hamburger, which is, of course, in Hamburg, Germany. In his very first season with Hamburg as an 18-year-old in 2010-2011, he would go on to start 8 of the 13 matches he played with the team, as he would go on to help them score 3 goals. And of course, as an 18-year-old, the fact that he was doing that, I believe he was Hamburg's youngest ever scorer. And like I said, he would establish himself as one of the best young players in soccer. And even by 2010, he had already earned a spot on the South Korean national team. So, of course, that speaks for itself as for the type of player that he's really been ever since. He got called up for the AFC Asian Cup following the 2011 season after establishing himself as a player who could at least get minutes at Hamburg. After 2011, he would go on to come back to Hamburg for a second full season. In 2011-2012, his age 19 season, Son Heung-min would score 11. He would start 11 of the 27 matches he would play, and he actually scored 5 goals that season as he held Hamburg. The Hamburger finished with the 15th best record as they dropped, but they were still able to stay in the Bundesliga. Within the season, like I said, scoring 5 goals by himself, he would establish himself as at least a full-time or at least a reliable starter by season's end. Going into the 2012-13 season, in his age 20 season, he would go on to start 31 of 33 games in a season where he finished with 12 goals and 2 assists in a full Bundesliga season, which, of course, the first time that he was able to score double-digit goals in a domestic season. Hamburg would finish 7th in the league as they wouldn't qualify for Champions League or Europa League, but considering this is the first time he was able to really lead the team in scoring, many people were able to keep their eye on him as one of the best young players in all of soccer. And in 2013, in that offseason, he was moved from Hamburg to Leverkusen as he stayed within the Bundesliga. In the 2013-14 season, in his age 21 season, he will go on to start 29 of the 31 games in the season where Leverkusen finished with the 4th best record in the Bundesliga. In the Bundesliga itself, he would finish with 10 goals and 4 assists. And like I said, this season they would eventually go on to finish in the quarterfinals of the DFB Pokal, and they lost in the round of 16 in the Champions League. But regardless, Heung-min's son was able to fit right into this team and become just a natural member of it, an extension of that offense, as he would see his game at least replicated from the previous year to the next. Following his very first season with Leverkusen, he would compete with South Korea at the 2014 FIFA World Cup. They would get knocked out of group stage. That is actually how they lost. But, of course, Heung-min's son, I'm at least trying to do the best for South Korea that he really could. But, of course, they would fall just short. Following his very first FIFA World Cup appearance, Heung-min's son would end up going back to Leverkusen for his second season, his age 22 season in 2014-2015. In that season, he would start 28 of 30 games, and he would finish with 11 goals and 2 assists. This would be the 3rd straight Bundesliga season in which he finished with double-digit goals. Like I said, Bayer Leverkusen would go on to finish 4th in the Bundesliga, and they lost in the quarterfinals of the DFB Pokal in the round of 16 in UCL again. in this season, or at least in Champions League. Heung-min Son would finish with 5 Champions League goals in the 10 matches that he played. As I said, he was starting to establish himself as one of the best young players, and not to mention he did score a goal at the FIFA World Cup in Brazil. Following his second season in Leverkusen after 2015, he would only play one game in 2015-16 with Leverkusen before getting moved to play for Tottenham in London in the Premier League. He would get, like I said, he would eventually get signed, and he would go on to join the team where he would go on to play the very rest of his career. He got signed for a 5-year, $30 million contract. He became the most expensive football player in Asian history. He would go on to make his debut in the Premier League in 2015-2016. And in that season, he would start 13 of the 28 matches he played. In a season where Tottenham would finish with the third best record in all of the Premier League, which is the second highest that they've ever finished. This would be the second year where Harry Kane would lead the team in scoring, because Harry Kane had already been there for a bit. They would end up losing in the round of 16 in the Europa as well. Just in the season itself, he will go on to finish with 4 goals and an assist as he established himself as one of the better young players. Not exactly established yet, but he would come back and show the rest of the Premier League why he was a player that needed to be dealt with. Even in the Europa League that season, he finished with 3 goals and 4 assists in the 7 matches he played. Following that, he would come back in 2016-17. And of course, by then, he had already been a 2-time South Korea Footballer of the Year. He would come back for his second full season at Tottenham in 2016-2017, his age 24 season. He would start 23 of the 34 games he would play in the season where Tottenham would actually finish runners-up in Champions League, the highest that they finished as a team in the Premier League since 1961. So, of course, that was a very big season for them. That was the closest they actually came to winning a trophy, as they ended up losing in the group stage of Champions League in the round of 32 at the Europa League. This would be yet another season which Harry Kane would lead the team. But in his first season where he was an established starter, Son Heung-min would end up with 14 goals and 6 assists, which, other than this season, is the most amount of Premier League goals he's ever been able to put up in a season. And like I said, they were knocked out of group stage, but Heung-min Son was able to establish himself as one of the best players that the world has ever seen. Following his age 24 season, he will come back to Tottenham for his third year with the club, his age 25 season in 2017-2018. He would go on to start 27 of the 37 matches he would play in a season where Tottenham would finish with the third best record in the Premier League again, as they were still relatively trophyless. And then in the Champions League, they would end up losing in the round of 16 as Harry Kane put up his highest scoring season to date in 2017-2018. In the Premier League itself, Heung-min Son would finish with 12 goals and 6 assists, which is, of course, the second season in a row in which he scored he had double-digit goals in the Premier League, and this would be the 5th season where he scored double-digit goals in a domestic league. And then following that, in 2017-18, he would finish with 4 goals in the 7 matches he played in Champions League. Following this season, he would go on to compete with South Korea at the World Cup in 2014, where they would end up, well, I guess in 2018, in that season, South Korea would completely miss the World Cup as well, but they would go on to beat Germany in their third game, as they were the team that effectively ended Germany's dream. As one of the goals on the breakaway, the goal that was the dagger for Germany, did belong to Heung-min Son. Heung-min Son, for the entirety of the World Cup, would finish with 2 goals in 3 matches played. Heung-min Son is actually tied with Park Ji-sung and An Jung-hwan with 3 goals for them. He is South Korea's highest goal scorer in the World Cup, and at this upcoming World Cup, he could very well pass that. So, of course, that's more context to understand Heung-min Son as the player. Following the World Cup, he would come back to Tottenham for his fourth season in his age 26 season. He would start 23 of the 31 matches he played in a season where Tottenham finished with the 4th best record in the Premier League. In the Premier League itself, he finished with 12 goals and 6 assists for the second year in a row. His 3rd season in a row where he finished with double-digit goals in the Premier League, in addition to his 3 seasons in the Bundesliga. He now is At this point, he had 6 domestic seasons where he had double-digit goals, which is a very tough feat to continue to continue to try to live up to. They would finish 4th in the Premier League, and then they would actually finish runners-up in Champions League as they ended up losing in the Champions League final to Liverpool. But looking at how Heung-min's Son fared that season, he would finish with 4 goals in those 12 Champions League games as they made it to the final, as that was the closest to, except for the previous year in the Premier League, that Heung-min's Son had come to winning a club trophy. Following that, he would come back for 2019-2020 for his 5th season with Tottenham, his age 27 season. He would start 28 of the 30 games that he would play in a season where Tottenham finished with the 6th best record in all of the Premier League. They would end up losing in the round of 16 of Champions League as well, as Harry Kane would be the team leader in scoring. In the Premier League itself, he would go on to finish with 11 goals and 10 assists. This would be the first time he had double-digit goals and assists in an entire season. While Tottenham, while most of the scoring load would have to fall between him and Harry Kane on Tottenham in the first place. And also in the round of 16, he would go, or once in the round of 16 stint in Champions League, he would finish with 5 goals and an assist in 6 games to show that he was a consistent force and one of the reasons why Tottenham was in a lot of the games that they were in. Following 2019-20, he would, or I guess prior to that season, he did go on to win the Asian Games with South Korea. And of course, that is the major trophy that is in his trophy case, which of course is a very impressive trophy to win. And let's also not forget to mention that in 1920, Heung-min's Son was also named the Tottenham Hotspur Player of the Year for the 2nd year in a row. But following the 2019-2020 season, he will come back to Tottenham for this most recent season, his age 28 season for 2020-2021. He would go on to start 36 of the 37 matchups he played this season, the most games that he would actually start for Tottenham. This year in the Premier League, he finished with 17 goals and 10 assists, the 2nd year in a row where he finished with double-digit goals and double-digit assists. Of course, for context, Tottenham would finish with the 7th best record in the Premier League as they are no longer qualifying for the Europa League. But also this year, they did go on to compete in Europa League. In the 9 games he played, he finished with 4 goals. And this would, of course, be a season where they ended up the runners-up in the EFL Cup final as well. They lost in the round of 16 in Europa League. But that's, of course, a little bit of context, which kind of, just to paint more of a picture of the player that Heung-min's Son is. And that leads us to where we are now as he is in his age 29 season. This very well could be a season where he changes location in the offseason because Tottenham they're not even competing for a Europa League. He's going to be a very expensive wing player that any team would be incredibly lucky to have. Any player that can get double-digit goals in double-digit assists in the Premier League and consecutive seasons is an elite player. And of course, that is my reasoning for why he is on this list for 2021. Just to show the type of player that he's really grown into. He's grown into a legend, a mogul, an icon in the nation of South Korea. And considering he's only 29, I definitely believe that there is a lot more that he has to offer. And with that said, I want to wish him a happy 29th birthday. I want to thank everyone for listening to all 14 minutes of this piece. You ever get a chance to watch him, he currently wears number 7 for Tottenham, and he might wear the same number for South Korea. I'm not officially sure. But once again, thanks for listening to my piece. I hope all is well, and I have another elite profile following this. But like I said, get a chance to watch Heung-min's Son. He's one of the best players in the world. I mean, the entire continent of Asia is definitely watching him. A lot of England, a lot of people that are following soccer, a lot of people that follow Tottenham, and a lot of people that just follow great soccer players like to follow a player like him. With that said, thanks once again for listening to my piece. I want to thank Football Reference, Ticket or Transfer Marked, Wikipedia for the team stats. And of course, I want to thank the FIFA website as well for giving me the information, because without them, I wouldn't be able to do that. And once again, I want to thank everyone for listening to this piece. I hope all is well, and I'll catch you with another episode after this. Peace out, and don't forget to stay elite. Thanks for listening to my piece.